My sister-in-law took my daughter, without asking as we were leaving, and I completely lost it. We were seconds from walking out the door when I realized my daughter had vanished. Turns out my sister-in-law quietly whisked her away to teach her a lesson, and I exploded. There's always a certain tension in the air when we visit my in-laws, but I've gotten used to brushing it off. At least, that's what I told myself. We were at my husband's parents' house this past weekend, a gathering that was supposed to be a simple family get-together. I was 24 weeks pregnant and already running on fumes. The last thing I needed was drama, but with his family, that's almost like asking the wind not to blow. The house was buzzing when we arrived. Too many voices talking over each other, too many opinions, too much energy. My daughter, who's almost 4, was excited at first, clinging to her dad's side while cautiously navigating the room. I kept a careful eye on her, always on alert, because if there's one thing I've learned from years of dealing with my sister-in-law, it's that I can't afford to relax, not even for a second. My Sael, let's call her Rachel, has never liked me. I could never pinpoint exactly why. Maybe it's because I married her brother. Maybe it's because I don't put up with her passive-aggressive comments. Or maybe it's just one of those inexplicable grudges some people carry. Whatever the reason, Rachel has always made me feel like I don't belong, like I'm an outsider, encroaching on their sacred family dynamic. This gathering was no exception. The evening was filled with thinly veiled jabs from Rachel, barely concealed mockery from my brother-in-law, who thought it was funny to prop his filthy feet on the dining table, and emotional manipulation from my mother-in-law. It was all exhausting, and I was doing my best to keep it together for my daughter. I kept reminding myself, just a few more hours, then we can go home. Things started escalating during dinner. There was a spat between Rachel and another family member over something trivial, a comment about politics. I think voices were raised, and that general sense of unease that always simmers just beneath the surface in this family started to boil over. My husband and I exchanged looks across the room, the kind that says we should leave before this turns into a full-blown mess. So we quietly began gathering our things. I grabbed my daughter's coat and called for her. No response. I looked around, checked the kitchen, the hallway. Nothing. Panic began to bubble in my chest. I turned to my husband, my voice sharp with worry. "Where's our daughter?" He looked up from tying his shoes. "She was just here." That's when I knew something was off. A mother knows when something isn't right. My pulse was racing as I searched the house. Every second felt heavier, more infuriating. My daughter, my baby, was nowhere in sight. In any other house, I might have felt okay, assuming she'd wandered into another room, but not here. Not with this family. Not with Rachel lurking around. I walked quickly down the hallway, glancing into each room. Just as I turned the corner near the back den, I heard her tiny voice. I followed it and found her sitting on the floor next to Rachel, who was crouched beside her, holding a pillow. "What's going on here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even though my heart thundered in my chest. Rachel looked up with that smug, patronizing expression I've come to loathe. "Oh, I was just teaching her how to deal with anger," she said casually. "You know, showing her how to punch a pillow when she's mad." I blinked. What? I knelt beside my daughter and pulled her gently into my lap. "You took her from the front room without saying anything," I said sharply, staring Rachel down. We were getting ready to leave. "She seemed upset," Rachel replied, brushing off my tone. And I thought maybe I could help her manage her emotions better. You know, a little proactive parenting. Proactive parenting. I felt the heat rise in my face. Who did she think she was? This woman has never respected me, and now she was trying to parent my child behind my back. I didn't respond right away. I just picked up my daughter, stood and walked straight toward the living room, where my husband was waiting, confused and concerned. As I passed through the house, I could see the others catching on to the tension. My mother-in-law, always ready to perform, came rushing toward me with exaggerated tears already forming. "Please don't go," she sobbed. "We hardly see you. Don't leave like this." Behind her, my brother-in-law sat back in a chair, chuckling under his breath, as if it were all some amusing sitcom, and Rachel. She followed us to the door, arms crossed, chin high, as if daring me to call her out further. I was done. Done with the fake tears. Done with the smugness. Done with the passive aggression dressed up as concern. I turned to my husband, who had opened the car door for our daughter, and said, "We're having a conversation about boundaries. Soon." He nodded clearly, shaken. I think in that moment he realized what I had been saying for years. His family wasn't just a little much. They were disrespectful. They crossed lines without hesitation. And now they had involved our child. The drive home was quiet. My daughter drifted off in her car seat, and I stared out the window, trying to control the tears that threatened to spill. I was pregnant, I was tired, and I was beyond done with trying to keep the peace. This wasn't about a pillow, or even just one incident. It was the culmination of years of being dismissed, disrespected, and tiptoed around in my own role as a mother. This was the moment the switch flipped. That night, after we put our daughter to bed, and I managed to calm myself down from the emotional whiplash of the day, I sat on the edge of our bed, hands cradling my pregnant belly. The baby kicked softly, as if even they could feel the tension humming in the air. My husband came in quietly. He knew he didn't even have to ask. "I'm sorry," he said, barely above a whisper, sitting beside me. I should have stepped in. I looked at him for a long moment. This isn't about stepping in anymore. This is about setting boundaries. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being disrespected like I don't matter in this family. He rubbed his eyes. "I didn't know Rachel took her until you told me. That wasn't okay." "No, it wasn't. She took our daughter without asking. She didn't just ignore me as a parent. She replaced me even for a minute. She tried to teach her something without our consent. That's not her place. And you know what scares me most?" I said, my voice tightening. What if I hadn't noticed? What if we were ready to leave and we actually drove off thinking she was already in the car? What if he cut in, his voice heavy with guilt? But we didn't. We didn't. That's not the point. The point is, I can't even blink around your family without worrying what someone will say or do. I turned toward him, emotion cracking through. I'm pregnant. I'm exhausted. And instead of having support from the people who are supposed to be family, I'm constantly guarding myself, like I'm walking into battle. He sighed and nodded. "I get it. I do. What do you want to do? I want space," I said firmly. "From all of them. Your mom's fake tears, your brother's disrespect, Rachel's passive-aggressive parenting. I don't need any of it. Not now. Not when we're preparing for another baby. And honestly, maybe not ever." He didn't fight me. I think deep down, he had started to feel it too. The strain, the awkwardness, the way our visits always ended with one of us holding back tears or biting our tongues. It had just taken this, the moment Rachel put her hands on our daughter, to wake him up fully. And I knew the conversation wasn't over. Not with him, not with his family. The next day, I sat down and started writing an email. Not a dramatic one, not filled with accusations or resentment. Just clear, direct boundaries. I told them exactly what had happened, how I felt, and what we would be doing going forward. That included limited visits, no one-on-one time with our daughter without us present, and absolutely no more teaching moments, unless explicitly discussed with both of us beforehand. And yes, I included Rachel. I knew it would cause another wave of drama, probably a storm, but this time I didn't care. I was protecting my child. I was protecting my peace. And no amount of crying, or guilt-tripping, or laughing behind my back would convince me otherwise. This wasn't just about last weekend. This was the breaking point of years of holding back, and I was done. I sent the email the next morning. It wasn't angry. It wasn't aggressive, but it was firm, maybe more direct than I'd ever been with them before. I laid it all out. What happened, why it was unacceptable, and what our boundaries would be from now on. No more unsupervised moments with our daughter, no more uninvited teaching, no more guilt-tripping crying performances or disrespect. My pregnancy wasn't a free-for-all for emotional stress, and our home and our child were no longer open territory for their drama. The silence that followed was deafening. Not a single reply, not even from his mom, who always had something to say. I could tell it made my husband anxious. He kept checking his phone, refreshing messages, opening and closing the family group chat like something might appear if he stared long enough, but nothing came. "I think they're mad," he finally said one evening. I looked up from my tea, tired but calm. "I'm not surprised. But I'm not sorry either. I just didn't expect them to go completely quiet. They're used to being able to push without consequence." I said simply, "They're not used to us pushing back." A few days later, the silence broke. Sort of my sister-in-law Rachel, the one who took our daughter, finally replied, and it was a masterpiece of passive aggression. She didn't apologize. Instead, she wrote, "I'm sorry you misunderstood my intentions. I was just trying to help your daughter regulate her emotions. I thought that was something you'd appreciate. It won't happen again." I stared at the screen for a long time. Misunderstood. I scoffed out loud. She literally kidnapped her for 5 minutes and wants to play it off like I overreacted. My husband winced. She's always like this. She'll never own it. That was the thing. I didn't need her to fall on her knees and beg forgiveness, but I needed her to acknowledge that she crossed the line and that it wasn't her place to parent our child, especially behind our backs. Instead, she made it about how I misunderstood her, as if she was the victim of my boundaries. We didn't respond. Then came the text from my mother-in-law 3 days later. I don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this. Rachel was just trying to help. Families shouldn't keep score. There it was, the final confirmation that they'd never get it. It wasn't about scorekeeping. It wasn't about grudges. It was about respect, safety, and parenting our way, not theirs. That same night, I sat down with my husband again. We were quiet for a long time. Finally, I said, I don't want them in our space again anytime soon. I don't even want to go to their house. He nodded slowly. I know, maybe in the future, maybe when the baby's older, maybe if they change. But for now, I need distance. And to my relief and surprise, he agreed. We'll do holidays on our own this year. He said, let's start making our own traditions. That small sentence felt like a warm blanket. For once we were choosing us, we started saying no to invitations, no to guilt trips, no to just drop-by requests. And while it ruffled feathers and stirred whispers in the family group chat, I felt freer than I had in years. My daughter, sweet, innocent, trusting, didn't know about the adult tension swirling around her. All she knew was that her mommy and daddy were home more that bedtime. Stories weren't rushed, and that she didn't have to be taken away by people she barely understood, and the baby in my belly. They kicked again that night, stronger than before, like even they knew we were finally drawing the line. The weeks that followed our decision to cut back contact with my husband's family were oddly peaceful. No more surprise visits, no more hovering at family functions, no more drama about who said what or why. I wasn't smiling enough at the dinner table. For the first time in a long time, our home felt like ours. Again, a space filled with intention and safety, not the background of someone else's chaos. It took my husband time to fully settle into it. I could tell he still felt the ghost of obligation. Sometimes he'd get this faraway look on his face like he was missing something, or maybe just bracing for the next emotional explosion. I feel guilty, he admitted one night while we folded baby clothes together. I looked over at him. Why, I don't know. Like I'm betraying them. I nodded. That's how they want you to feel, but you're not. You're protecting your own family. That's not betrayal, that's love. He didn't say anything for a moment, then quietly said, "Thank you for saying that." As my pregnancy progressed, I focused on preparing our daughter for the new baby. We talked about how things would change, but also how much we loved her, how she'd be a big sister, and how proud we already were of her. The sparkle in her eyes when she talked to my belly made all the stress of the last few months worth it, but I won't pretend it was all smooth. One Sunday morning, my phone lit up with a message from my BIL, the one who sat silently while everything unraveled that day. It said, "You and husband have really hurt the family with your behavior. Mom's been crying. Rachel feels attacked. You're punishing everyone over a misunderstanding. Hope the baby's worth it." I stared at the message in disbelief. Then I laughed, an ugly, bitter laugh I hadn't meant to let out. Because there it was. Again, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the rewriting of events. To make us the villains, I showed my husband. He read it once, then deleted the thread off my phone without a word. Later that night, he texted back from his own phone. "We're doing what's best for our family. If you can't respect that, don't contact us." That was it. No more explanations, no more bargaining. I never heard back. The baby came 4 weeks later. A beautiful, strong little boy. My labor was long but manageable, and my husband was right there the whole time, holding my hand, whispering encouragements, brushing sweaty hair out of my eyes like he was trying to erase every bad moment we'd endured. When our daughter met her baby brother, she was gentle and careful and so full of awe that I cried. She kissed his tiny forehead and whispered, "Hi, baby." We didn't call my husband's family from the hospital. We didn't send photos. We didn't announce it in the family group chat. We waited until we were home recovered and ready. Even then, we only sent a short message, "He's here, healthy, we're happy. We'll be in touch when we're ready for visits." The responses ranged from neutral to bitter, but at that point, I didn't care. Because the truth was, I no longer felt the need to justify protecting my children. I didn't owe anyone access to my life, especially not people who thought parenting my daughter behind my back was just helping. Peace. It turned out wasn't a loud declaration. It was quiet, soft-earned. It was in the way my daughter slept soundly without disruption, how my husband and I held hands more often, how our home felt warmer, lighter. We hadn't cut them out forever, but we had drawn a line, and for the first time, we knew we'd never be crossing it again for their comfort. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were finally living on our terms. If you enjoyed this story and want more real drama from Reddit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a case. This is Reddit Jury, where you decide what's fair.